Well, anything indeed can happen in the theater. Just look at our guests this afternoon. Maury Yeston, Yeshiva Bachur, Yale professor, and wrote a couple of songs for shows like Nine, Titanic, Grand Hotel. And next to him, a man who took those songs, spoofed them, if not outright butchering them, as well as those of many Broadway composers. Broadway's bad boy, creator of Spamilton and Forbidden Broadway, Gerard Alessandrini, and I shudder to think of whatever would happen if he fell into the wrong hands. Together, they have come up with an interesting review of Mr. Yeston's songs, which is playing at the York Theater, which is also where Forbidden Broadway will be playing very shortly.
That's right.
Okay. How did this collaboration come about?
It was Gerard's idea.
Not a very hard idea. Let's put all of Maury Yeston's brilliant songs together and sing them to the world. So it wasn't a particularly original idea, but he was nice enough to go along with it. We went through all his hundreds of songs, which are each and every one is brilliant and different and beautiful, and that in itself was fun, a great journey. And we came up with a set of songs that we felt worked out of context in the review. And so we have Anything Can Happen in the Theater, and indeed it does.
I did get to see it, and I'm just curious. Obviously, I got to see it. I'm just curious because you gave it a storyline. It does have a bit of a spine.
Yes.
You want to talk a little bit about that? Was that a collaborative thing as well?
Yeah, well, I knew it had to open. So, and we can call it Anything Can Happen in the Theater. So I wrote the opening. And so if you write the opening, you know, when you write a theater song, it's always in response to a situation. And so I had to invent the situation. And the situation is that show opens with a short overture, and then one actor comes storming in and screaming and yelling about the audition from hell. And then another was the same. And why do we put up with this? And then they sing, then they sing the opening number, which you want to know why I put up with all this aggravation?
Okay,
because an actor will do anything to work.
It's true. We know that.
And that's the opening.
Now, when I was watching the Grand Hotel number, I kept thinking, when does Joel Grey come out? When does Joel Grey come out?
Oh.
And was it hard to move away? Was it hard for you to play it straight?
No, because I love these songs. I was totally into them. And, I love theater in general. So, of course, a great writer I would love even more. No, it was not hard to play it straight. It wasn't, it was work to find out which song goes next to which song, which Maury was also tremendous at, and to find out who sings what. The tailoring was work, but not to play it straight. That's
well,
okay with
more
me.
Specifically, first of all, I've written a lot of comedy, and there's nobody I can think of better to present and to direct comedy than Gerard.
Yeah.
Well, Gerard and I have known each other ever since I was in the BMI Theater Workshop, and he was in the workshop, and then Lehman Engel died, and I took over, and Gerard stayed there. But, when Gerard was in that workshop, like all of us, we were writing songs, assignments, and we were writing theater songs. Gerard was writing theater songs. He was writing comedy songs. He was writing songs that are supposed to take you from point A to point B. And then one day he wrote a fantastic parody, right? And discovered that part of his talent as well. But he's always had a talent for playing it straight as well, whether it's going to be tug at your heartstrings or whether it's going to be funny. And I think that he's absolute master at handling the tempo of the evening, so that everything is unexpected. And as we used to say in my workshop, something has to land and it has to be a complete surprise. And the moment it happens, you must feel it cannot have been otherwise.
Right.
And Gerard's a master at that.
Well, thank you, Maury.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, with material like that to work on, who couldn't do that, right?
Now, there's no real story. There are no anecdotes. Just the music, just the songs.
Just the music, right. And we did decide that early on, to let the material speak for itself.
It establishes itself, and so I don't know who it was who said. Well, a number of people have said, in the idea of theater song that I think Sondheim said it. A theater song is a 3-act play. Mm-hmm. And most of my theater songs are that, So they really establish their own tone, their own storyline, their own conflict, their own resolution, and so you can go from one to the other, and they should be whole and a whole meal as each one ends.
And it's very clear in a review format or in a cabaret format because then they do each tell their own story.
They
yeah.
do.
And I really did appreciate that. maybe there was no plot, but each song
Right.
was like a little one-act play.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, because we're alive, right, so we can make decisions, we responded to the talents of the people we cast. We had a plan, but then when we saw who we had hired and what they could do, we made adjustments so that, because no matter what we do, somebody's got to get it across the footlights to the people on the other side. And that's where you have, Mamie Paris, who's got a high C and a deep belt, and people who have such extraordinary varied gifts. We had to feed their talent and give them the kind of material that would show them to best advantage.
I always believe that if there's not a book in a review, then the actor becomes the person you identify with. So it's, wow, what else can Mamie Paris do? It's fun
Right.
to see her do that, and you cheer for her inside,
But what a
like
gift.
you would for a character.
What a gift to these actors to be put in that position with you at the helm.
Yeah.
Because for you to give, and your music, that's a perfect storm.
Well, it's a collaboration,
Yeah.
and that's why when you're doing an actual original musical, you go with the talent. I mean, I didn't know Anita Mars had a high C, and then I wrote her result. Lily, I was just telling you the story. I didn't know Lillian Montevecchi was that good a singer, so I wrote her that song, and she won the Tony. But it wasn't in the show. And so we do. You always do the same thing with our. This is an extraordinary cast of people. We're lucky.
And by the way,
together.
although we had a tremendous run at the York, the show will be done again, and Maury recorded a cast album with an orchestra that'll be coming
Oh,
out.
wow.
Yeah,
When is it going to be done again? You said?
March the 6th, with charts by orchestrations by Doug Besterman, and it's for 8 instruments. Big. They sound wonderful.
That is a big deal.
Yeah, very exciting.
And New York will have that then to sell
Sure,
up there.
everybody
right?
else can have
and
that
online too.
Right.
I'm sure. Right.
Right, we'll do it in your living room.
Well, I was planning on that. I was
Okay.
going to ask you that later, but now
It'd be better on the terrace.
we're going to segue slightly because we're talking about the York Theater.
Forbidden York.
The next show up at the York Theater happens to be Forbidden Broadway: The Next Generation.
We couldn't get all the dates we wanted to at the Triad, so we're moving it to New York. I always welcome Forbidden Broadway in a theater setting because then we can do the dancing and the movement, and the spoof becomes more self-realized.
Absolutely. And,
Now,
and
a lot of your songs have been done in Forbidden Broadway.
Oh, yeah. Well, I believe Stephen Sondheim and I are the only two who send Gerard our work for the show before the show opens, so he has a lot of time to make fun of it.
What was your reaction when you
I
first saw him?
loved it. Well, don't forget, I've loved him, and we've been friends ever since. Before any of us had our work publicly performed. But as soon as he saw Titanic, of course, the guys come out and they don't see anything, and they sing, "There she is." And so it was Ship of Air that was for Titanic.
well,
And
but it's a badge of honor
Grim
to get
Hotel.
it.
Grand Hotel became Grim,
Grim Hotel, yeah.
Somebody
With Joel
said,
Grey.
Eventually, all the
Right.
characters go through the evolving
That's
door
right.
of Grand Hotel.
Right.
That's where we learned at Forbidden Broadway that you can actually change anybody's costume in 20 seconds.
That's right.
Because we had 4 actors to do 20 parts. And then the last one
Yeah.
that comes in was Joel Grey, and he'd say, "Sorry, this looked like a quasi-Nazi musical."
That's right. Yeah, and you took from Vicky Baum's Grand Hotel. People come, people go, people move chairs.
Right.
Because there
I
was
love
nothing but
that
just
line.
chairs.
I love that line.
Yeah.
Well, good, that's a great
But
song.
it's such a badge of honor to have.
Yes,
it is.
exactly.
I remember you
I'm
telling
glad
me
you
once.
think so.
Oh, absolutely.
But I remember you telling me once that somebody came to you and asked you why you hadn't done them yet. I think it was
Not
Patty.
to be
Carol
noticed.
Channing.
It was Carol Channing.
Carol
Okay.
Channing, the late and great Carol
Not to
Channing.
be so much in the forefront that they have to make fun of you. My God
Exactly.
Almighty.
Exactly.
that's
What's wrong
death.
with me? What am I, chopped liver?
Right.
Well, I think the fact you said you love the theater, and I think that's always been reflected in the show, and I think that's why. That's probably why no one's tried to shoot you over the years.
But the best
Somebody
thing
may
is,
have tried to, but
the
I
best thing
dodged
is
the
that you
bullet.
could bring your out of town people who
I'm
don't
not
know
talking
the
about
show,
the critics.
who
Now,
don't know the
this new
shows.
Forbidden Broadway is all new. No Annie, no Les Mis, no Cheetah Rita.
Because there's been
Just-
so much time. You have so many
These
times,
are
so
all
many
the new
shows.
shows like Beetlejuice and Frozen and Hadestown. So it's all new. And
Evan
it's
Hansen.
The next Evan Hansen. It's the next generation. We're passing
Which
it
is-
on.
which is
because
why
when
it
I
says
did the
the
show with
next.
Norma Ling originally, we were 25, right? That was
Weren't
many,
we
many
all?
things ago. So our cast kept getting older, and finally I said to my producer John Friedson, I said, we should do Forbidden Broadway like it originally was done with 25-year-olds.
Well, one of these looks like a kid.
One of them is a
he
kid.
Oh, is a kid.
I
Okay.
have seen this show and run to this show.
I can't
Oh, my
wait. We
God
never got
almighty.
to see
Yeah.
the
Josh
triad.
Lister, remember that name. He's also a great young writer,
Oh.
and he's a wonderful performer, loves theater himself. He's already had a couple of shows.
He
at the
steals the
Rave.
show. He's fabulous.
He steals the show.
Well, we can't
Speaking
wait.
of the next generation, you know, you've been a teacher, and obviously you guys have been in the business for a long time. What do you think of the current? What is the state of the art of the musical theater?
It's never been better. It's never been more hopeful. It's never been more thrilling. It's never been more international. It's never, I mean, you know, my work is done in like 13 languages. And there are people in Japan right now and in Czech Republic and, you know, writing new musicals. And it's, you know, it's thrilling. It's become the vernacular of the whole world's popular music.
And the rethinking of certain shows like Oklahoma and whatnot, that you're okay with that?
I loved it.
Okay.
I love
Okay.
Oklahoma. I love Shirley Jones and Gordon McRae and Tadeo. But I just love this new version, and I think it's a great testament, personally, I think it's a great testament to Roger Hammerstein that you can mine that type of gold in the material. It's like Shakespeare. You can take it
I
and
hope
do it.
somebody
Well,
does that to my work. You know,
Well, speaking
Well,
of
they
your work,
did
there
with
is
Nine.
one show in here that has not gotten as much exposure. It's called In the Beginning.
In the
Very
Beginning.
well represented.
It was my
here.
Bible show. Yeah.
Can you tell me a little about it?
Yeah, well, you know, I was tortured at my yeshiva, and I thought I would write a musical based on the first 5 books of the Bible. The working title was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's why I wrote 9 after that. And the plan was to write a sports musical, 2, 4, 6, 8, and then an X-rated one called 69. But we got as far as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And Larry Gelbart ended up writing the book. And,
From Sly Fox and Mash.
well, and some other things, but
some other things.
he was hilarious, obviously. We did it. Manhattan Theater Club did it at City Center, and it was we had a wonderful time. Herman Levin actually took an option out on it, and we had, so you know, it's one of those shows that was always a wonderful show. Gerard and I did it up in Main State, and Gerard
Nice
directed
version
it.
of
So
it.
it didn't get to Broadway. Not every show goes to Broadway, but there's some wonderful material in it, or
Oh,
so
more
I'm
than
told.
obviously.
Well, it was
Oh,
lovely
no.
that we got to
all
hear
that
that.
You know,
Score
New
is
Words
just
is in
great.
it. Everybody says that's my best song, or you know, Mr. Sondheim says that's my best song, and so this is an opportunity to take, you know, good material from a show that never went to Broadway, and you know,
And put it off Broadway.
put it on Broadway.
You'll see
Okay.
more of it too. Great score, great score.
Okay, so our guest this evening, Maury Yeston, composer, lyricist, Gerard Alessandrini, lyricist, director, jack of all trades and creator of Forbidden Broadway. Forbidden Broadway at the York. Anything can happen on DVD, on CD. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.